Good morning. How are you today? It's a Saturday when I'm recording this live. Another day for Bhagavad Gita Sadhana. So today I'm looking at a very common question that people ask when studying the Gita. And I've mentioned it before. It's if the Gita is ultimately a book about spiritual practice and yoga, why is it set on a battlefield? So today we'll explore one possible reason for this that can be very applicable to our lives. If you've ever studied the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, you'll probably have some familiarity with the first verse, which is Atta Yoga Nushasanam, which means now time for instruction on yoga, or now time for yoga. Could be a very simple way to put it. And what I've learned from studying both the sutras and the Gita is that they say basically the same thing but in different ways. Samkhya, the philosophy that informs the Yoga Sutra, is very scientific and all about numbers and logic and formulas, whereas the Gita is told as a story. But they are saying the same thing. So the Gita in chapters 1 and the first part of chapter 2 is saying the first Yoga Sutra. Now is time to learn about yoga. You might think, how does that really click? So the Gita is set on a battlefield, yes? Where do you usually practice your yoga, or how? Usually when many of us practice yoga, we go to a nice studio, or we have a nice room, and we have our mat, and we're comfy, and we're making sure that we're taking care of ourselves. Awesome. And maybe we're by ourselves. So that's how we commonly practice yoga, which is not the only way to practice yoga. What the Yoga Sutra say and what the Gita says is when you most need your yoga is not when you're alone and comfy and cozy and feeling good. It's when you're in the heat of life. And the Gita puts Arjuna in the most heated situation a human being can possibly be in, which is war, and not only war, but war in which he'll have to kill people he loves. Can you think of something more challenging than that? So what the Gita and the sutras are saying is, now is the time for yoga. When you're in the conflict, it's also time for yoga. Arjun is in this conflict and he could resort to his baser drives and lash out from anger and hatred and confusion. Is that going to do any good? Think of your own conflicts. When you're in conflict with your beloved, when you're in conflict with your children, when you're in conflict with the traffic, when you're in conflict with nature, when you're in conflict with your toilet. So right before this started, I was getting set up, and at 8:14, I hear the toilet upstairs running. And I'm like, toilet, I fought with you this morning. I purposefully took the back lid off and made sure the plunger was set, and you're still leaking. And I realized, given the theme of the day, hey, now's the time for yoga. Now's not the time to go, world, why are you so unfair? Which is what Arjun is doing. Or I don't want to fix that darn toilet. I just wrestled with it. Or I want to put the lid down so hard I break the toilet. Is any of that helpful? Would it have been helpful to come on and talk to you feeling like that? So the toilet actually taught me a great lesson. Now was the time for yoga. So I recognized my destructive thought pattern, said, this is something I need to do in the moment. It's my dharma, obviously, to go work with the toilet now. So I went up, calmly did it, calmly came back down. And here we are, hopefully, talking about something that makes a little sense. But today, and if you don't call what you do yoga, that's fine too. When you're in the heated moments, can you bring your deepest beliefs to bear, like nonviolence or love or whatever you hold at your heart? That's the time when the world needs it most. So I'll ask you to consider that during your meditation. And today for the meditation, we're going to go into a language of mudra. I was very lucky to have the opportunity and the necessity to learn some American Sign Language when I worked at the Regional Deaf Library here in Cleveland. And sign language and mudra have a lot in common. For example, this is the mudra for water in yoga, and this is water in American Sign Language, or at least the region I learned in, because there are various dialects. Okay, so very similar. And one of my favorite mudra or words from American Sign Language is now. This is now. It's very strong. It's a strong gesture. It grounds you. It brings you here. It's like the thumb and little fingers extended, and now it brings you to the present. So if you'd like to try an American Sign Language mudra today in your practice, in your meditation, I invite you to give it a go. Shall we? Let's switch sides. Wonderful. So let us prepare for our meditative practice. Maybe think of a situation that you usually find yourself in where you're not so yogic or spiritual. Could you contemplate a way to bring what you truly believe into that heated moment? See you in 5. Welcome back. You probably heard the goose that flew over. I don't know if you also heard the laughing woodpecker, Deb, especially. Today's practice is dedicated to SK and her mother. May you both be able to find your yoga in your battles of life, and may you do so as well. Thank you so much for being part of this, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.